Imagine waking with a pulse hammering inside your jaw. No clinic, no antibiotics, no anesthetic, only cold stone and smoke. Now a needle-sharp rock moves toward the bad tooth, perhaps in your own hand, perhaps in someone else's. That terrifying scene may not be fiction. It may record the earliest known invasive treatment of dental decay. The clue is a single lower second molar, cataloged as Chagirskaya 64, from Chagirskaya Cave in the Altai Mountains of southwestern Siberia. It was recovered in place at the base of a layer associated with the cave's earliest occupation, around 59,000 years ago. The tooth itself was not directly dated. Then researchers looked closer. It is tempting to call the owner the patient and the nearby hands the dentist. But archaeology cannot give us either name. The tooth came from an adult. Its precise left or right position is disputed, and no tool was found touching it. Every conclusion begins with one damaged molar and a pattern of microscopic clues. The crown was almost completely worn away, with no enamel preserved, and the pulp chamber, where nerves and blood vessels normally sit, was exposed. Micro-CT showed demineralized dentine consistent with deep decay. Such a tooth could have been painful and vulnerable to infection. But the fossil cannot tell us whether the nerve still lived, or whether the pain had already faded. The molar carries more than one kind of mark. Grooves on both surfaces between neighboring teeth show repeated toothpick use. That may have removed trapped material or eased discomfort. But the marks cannot reveal whether toothpicking came before or after the larger cavity, or whether it was treatment at all. At the chewing surface is a hollow roughly 4.2 millimeters long, 2.8 wide, and 2.6 deep. It reaches through the missing crown into the pulp chamber and contains 3 partly overlapping depressions. The edges are smooth and rounded, not freshly broken. Was this entirely wear, decay, or trauma? Or had someone deliberately enlarged a diseased cavity? To answer it, the 2026 PLOS ONE team did not rely on resemblance. Microscopy and micro-CT documented shape, wear, and demineralization. Raman spectroscopy searched for possible filling residue, but detected only dentine. The team also compared 7 other Chagirskaya molars, then created fresh modifications in 3 modern human molars. Typical fractures have sharper edges. Ordinary wear can expose a pulp chamber, but should not widen it this way. The unusual marks on Chagirskaya 64 were localized, and its cave layer showed little disturbance. Together with polish that formed over some grooves, the researchers read this as modification during life, rather than damage after burial. Inside the tooth, micro-CT revealed demineralized dentine around the central hollow and near one toothpick groove. The authors classified this pattern as deep caries rather than simple wear. Caries is uncommon among known Neanderthal teeth, but uncommon does not mean impossible. This individual appears to have been very unlucky. Under magnification, some surviving lines ran parallel to the cavity wall, a pattern the authors say could result from rotation. Other grooves had stepped, V-shaped profiles like experimental tool marks. Later chewing softened most of the original texture. These clues support the drilling idea, but cannot recover the exact movement or tool with certainty. The team then made narrow points from jasper-like stone and tested them on 3 modern human molars. Scraping struggled to start a deep hole. Twisting the point between the fingers broke the surface quickly and produced rounded hollows plus microscopic striations resembling those on Chagirskaya 64. The experiment shows feasibility and trace similarity, not the original tool, technique, or operator. The 3 experimental sessions lasted just over 5 minutes, about 35 minutes, and about 50 minutes. Only the third aimed to penetrate the pulp chamber. These were isolated teeth, fixed in cork, and worked by an experienced experimenter, so the timings cannot be transferred to a living mouth. They show possibility, not the actual duration or number of people involved. Why do it? The authors interpret the cavity as deliberate removal of decayed dentine to reach the pulp. They argue that the intervention may have had therapeutic value. But the tooth cannot show whether pain relief was the goal, whether infection risk fell, or whether it worked. Complete pulp exposure may already have damaged or destroyed the nerve. So who held the stone? It may have been self-treatment or help from another person, the tooth cannot distinguish between those possibilities. We do not know whether this was a one-time improvisation or a practice skill repeated elsewhere. One case cannot establish a craft, a specialist, or a profession. The fossil preserves marks, not a job title. Yet the modification was not the final moment of this tooth. Polish formed over some marks, showing that the molar remained in use afterward. The individual lived long enough for later wear to smooth parts of the cavity. But the evidence cannot tell us whether that meant days, months, or years, or whether the symptoms improved. Do not picture a prehistoric root canal. Raman spectroscopy found no surviving filler residue, and the fossil provides no evidence of anesthesia, sterilization, a sealed canal, or a permanent restoration. We do not know whether pain vanished, infection returned, or the tooth eventually failed. This is an interpretation of one extraordinary tooth, not a Neanderthal dental clinic. Until the 2026 study. The benchmark came from Villa Bruna in northern Italy. Around 14,000 years ago, a young Homo sapiens had a carious wisdom tooth, manipulated with pointed flint by scratching and levering. The marks did not reach the pulp chamber. If the Chigirskaya interpretation is correct, it pushes invasive caries intervention back roughly 45,000 years. Much later, at Mehrgarh, in present-day Pakistan, researchers found 11 drilled molars from 9 adults, evidence of repeated proto-dentistry. The original report placed the cemetery between 9,000 and 7,500 years ago. New direct dating now places Mehrgarh period 1 roughly between 5,200 and 4,700 BC. A 6,500-year-old canine from what is now Slovenia retained beeswax over exposed dentine and part of a crack. The researchers could not determine whether it was applied shortly before or shortly after death. If applied during life, it may have reduced sensitivity. Even this apparent filling ends with a question mark. This does not make ancient dentistry modern, but if the study's interpretation is correct, Chagirskaya 64 adds to evidence that Neanderthals could perform precise, sustained manipulation of a diseased tooth. It cannot tell us whether the operator treated themselves or someone else, or whether relief followed. It does make the mindless brute stereotype harder to defend. Today, when a dentist asks you to open wide, bright lights and sterile steel surround you. Beneath all that technology is an ancient idea. Suffering may have a physical source, and perhaps a careful hand can reach it. One worn tooth cannot identify the operator or prove the outcome. But if this study is right, someone tried 59,000 years ago.